Hey guys, I know it has been a while. I owe you a Game of Thrones review, and I actually have an entire video about Aladdin in the movie that I recorded. I just haven't edited it yet, but by the time this video comes up, the Aladdin video should be following very shortly, as well as some other things that I've been working on for today. I have just been super overwhelmed with work because we actually launched a show, my show, that is going to be part of the Mary Sue channel. I will link to that down below, and I would absolutely love you guys check it out. It's kind of like a 10 to 15 minute pop culture media talk show with one of my coworkers, Rachel Leishman, and we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of different stuff. I plan on doing some long form conversations on here still. Like, I still want to maintain this channel. I'm absolutely working on it, but I'm also working on that, so that's why I've been a little bit scatterbrained. Also had really bad carpal tunnel, and so it's just been very hard to edit. But in light of certain things, I kind of wanted to use my platform to talk about them. Sometimes things come across better when you talk about them than just write about them. So I knew that it was my responsibility as a big-tittied feminist to talk about what's going on with Tifa's boobs. One of my co-workers' spouses told me that I basically have like a PhD in video game boob ethics, which is now part of my Twitter bio, and I plan on living up to that full-throated. So let's get into talking about Tifa's titties. So for those of you that don't know, Square Enix is re-releasing a version of Final Fantasy VII, one of its most popular titles. It's got all the people that you know from Kingdom Hearts 1 in it, and one of the characters in it is Tifa, who is the ultimate ride or die bad bitch. We love her. And the ethics department at Square Enix had a lot to say about Tifa's boobage. They basically were redesigning her to give her more of an athletic build with abs and everything, and part of that was giving her a less, let's say, sensational chest, and they made her body proportional to the body type that they were presenting her to have, a more realistic body type. Now, there are a lot of layers to this topic beyond the whole, like, wank, literally, about social justice warriors ruining video games and video game titties. But this comes up, hold on, let me put this on, mute. This comes after, like, a bunch of other fighting games or video games in general have sort of, like, stopped making their, you know, female players have really, like, tacky, very fan servicey costumes, and also have more proportional, less jiggle titty physics than before. Like, I have the new Mortal Kombat Is Baller. Katana looks hotter than she's ever been before, and everyone looks like they're a fighter. And even in DOA, you know, it's the first time I've seen Kasumi in an outfit that's her main outfit that's not super revealing, but still very sexy. She's wearing a Thai cat suit, so I'm like, what's the problem here? So this is just kind of another example of video game developers and creators and designers trying to make more realistic body types. Now, there are two sides to this story that I will be touching on. One will be the backlash to it from mostly dudes, and the issue of, like, what does it mean to make a realistic body type, and where women like myself, big-tittied feminists, fit into this whole kind of dynamic. First, the wank. The male response to these changes in video games is so indicative of why people say there's a problem with the way that men talk about video games and all this kind of stuff, because literally these women are being given, they're still flawless, they are still hyper idealized, still skinny, no cellulite, no stretch marks, still giving you face, hair, unless they're black, then they're giving you something, but they're giving you hair, they're giving you everything that you could want, and still, because they don't have super fan servicey proportions, people are going out of whack. And someone wrote a thing on Twitter where they were like, Tifa used to be a curvy, thighed woman and shit, and I'm just sitting here like, y'all, let's not. Instagram and all these photo tuning and stuff has really made y'all deluded about what curves are. And people were just kind of like, oh yeah, now Tifa has a B cup. That's not a B cup. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I have a triple D breasts or an F cup. You know, I I've had big breasts since I was about 12 years old, and I can tell you that if Tifa was a B cup, you wouldn't be seeing that shit the way she's seeing it, especially because she's not a curvy woman. She's not a fat woman. She's a skinny, athletic woman. If she was a B cup, you wouldn't be seeing shit. Okay, she's like a C, she's in the C area. Everyone's always like, social justice warriors, we're ruining it, we're taking it over. And it's like, if we were, don't you think that we would be having much more impactful fights than breasts? Because it's part of it, but really what people want is just like, you know, more women involved in developing games, more women involved in creating the storylines, more female characters that are leads, not simply their costume and their breast size. You know, if she had huge breasts and was a fully developed character and got to be the heroine and not, you know, a supporting character, then Excelsior. Guys are just being so adamant about they're losing something, and I'm just like, what are you losing? These women are hot. You know what I mean? They're hot as fuck. And I'm sitting here like, I also am attracted to women. I'm bisexual, as you guys all know. I'm looking at, every time that scene comes up, that intro comes up of Katana being carried in the chair looking like Azula from season 2 of Avatar: Last Airbender, I'm like, sploosh. You know what I mean? Like, it does it for me. I play these games to play as powerful, badass women who could sit on my face or step on my face. And I'm not losing any of that. Unless you really just want to see jiggly boobs. And if that's the criteria for it, like, you have plenty of other games that you could be playing. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the point of these characters. And I think what frustrates me is that there are so many men who feel that they are being ill-stereotyped by feminists, by social justice media, and all kinds of things. And it's like, if you think that way, if you think that there is a more nuanced discussion to be had, then have it and call out these goons, these fools that are saying this dumb shit about these characters. Because they don't make you look good. They don't make you look better. They only further prove the idea that the only attachment you have to these characters is physical. Just looking at Mortal Kombat, the graphics are better than they've ever been. The women look awesome. Like, Katana, one of her fatalities is she cuts open this guy's bowels and does a wind cyclone and like takes all of his innards out of him. And I'm just like, that is fucking dope. That's what you come from for a Mortal Kombat video game. You are literally getting better designed characters than you've ever had before, and you're mad because you don't have jiggles. And it's like, you don't even care about everything else that comes with the jiggle. You don't want cellulite. You don't want stretch marks. You don't want actual like fupa, like render the fupa, y'all, if we gonna be real. You don't want any of that stuff that comes with having a curvy body. You want this hypersexualized vision of these characters. That's why y'all got fan art. That's why y'all got fan fiction. That's why you have all kinds of other stuff that you can materialize. The fact that you want to turn this into an actual representation discussion is ludicrous. It also does a disservice to actual women who are busty, who are fat, who are curvy, that are trying to have a dialogue about better body representation in these mediums when you co-opt this conversation. I myself am a busty woman, an athletic woman, and I can see how some people can conceive Tifa's redesign as saying that busty women cannot be athletic. And I think that is something that people do think, but I think in the case of Tifa, it was an example of them almost telling on themselves, of admitting the fact that they did not design Tifa to be curvy because that's how they felt that her character and who she was. They designed her to be curvy so that she could be fan servicey, that she could be, you know, eye-catching to the male gaze. That's why her design was that way. The problem is when those designs become synonymous with those actual characteristics being bad on an actual person. Tifa, Lara Croft, you know, Ivy Valentine, those are characters. They are designed by people. They have been created by like a committee, you know, whereas we are actual people. Like, these are our actual bodies, you know, and therefore it becomes difficult to say one or the other. But what I will say is true is that the problem for me has never been like the boobs inherently. It is that it's boobs without any of the support. You know, no sports bras, no, you know, no sports bras, no kind of supportive material on this. I actually like that, like Tifa's design looks like she's wearing like a tank top and a sports bra, and I'm like, great, goat. You know, like that looks great to me because it's showing that it's not just about the breast. It's thinking about if she has this kind of body type, she'll have to have that. You know, I have stretch marks because of my chest size. You don't see stretch marks in these games or on these characters. They're just kind of there in their perfection. Like if Power Girl had stretch marks, bro, that would be lit. And I do get it is frustrating to have sometimes feminists take in this narrative of like, well, now this one body that is slim and flat is more athletic than this body that is fat and curvy or just, you know, top heavy, because that narrative does get pushed around. And to a degree it is in response to criticisms of the male gaze, but it does dehumanize us as people because we are still athletic, we are still badass, especially as women of color and black women especially, who have always had our bodies be fetishized, be hypersexualized. It can be very bothersome when certain feminists will make it seem as though being flat-chested gives you inherently more of a personality. Like one of the things I actually don't like about the new Tomb Raider games is that I don't really think Laura is that interesting of a character sometimes, especially like the movie especially highlighted this to me because everyone's like, she's athletic now. I'm like, she's athletic but she's a wet noodle, you know. At least Angelina Jolie's Lara Croft was having fun and like enjoyed what she was doing, you know. I don't buy into that, and I dislike that narrative so much. You yourself are playing up into the idea that breasts and these parts can only mean sex. And that's unfortunate because many young girls from the time that they're like 10 years old have this situation and they're being hypersexualized from jump. And I can tell you with my experience as someone who started like really coming into my cisness when I was like around like 10, 12 years old. I think I maybe wore sports bras for like a season and then it was like, you know, I outgrew my mother's bras like by the time I was 12 years old when she would like try and give me her hand-me-downs because ain't no one was looking in them shits anyway. So by the time I was 12 years old, I had to deal with the fact that like grown ass men would be ogling me on the streets. I had to deal with the fact that like even though I was visibly an ugly child as a teenager, like visibly a child, visibly ugly, that like grown men would be looking at me with like lust and like licking their lips at me. And even now as like a 27-year-old woman, that still makes me deeply uncomfortable. Like even this top that I'm wearing, which I'm sure I will get plenty of comments on because I know that that's the way it works. Like I'm wearing it because I'm hot. Like in this room that I'm recording in, like there's a screen, the screen is open, so that window is closed because I am not letting no bugs into my house, no thank you. And I have no fan here because I don't want it to fuck with the audio. My door is closed so I can limit the noise from outside. So I'm hot, I am sweating. So that's why I'm wearing a tank top, because it makes me comfortable. I'm not wearing a bra because fuck it, I'm at my house, you know, like this is not my personality, neither if it was big or if it was smaller, you know, like this is not my personality. It's just a part of my body. And so there was one person who was like, what am I gonna tell like if I have a future big titty daughter, what am I gonna tell her about like, you know, her body? Where's her representation? And I'm just kind of like, you think that like I look for Power Girl for representation? No, I look at Black Canary for representation for one serious reason. Above the fact that I think she's a badass bitch. She a Green Lantern now. We out here. The reason why I love Black Canary is because she is a hot ass woman who can kick anyone's ass. She is sexy but always empowered. Always the toughest one there, can fight Batman, can fight the best of them, and she's hot. That is what will empower your daughter. If you have a daughter, what she will want if she has to see, you know, all of this kind of stuff in the world, she will see powerful women doing their thing, and that will inspire her no matter what size her chest is. And I know that there are other women who are empowered by Power Girl. I personally just don't, because that's not a character that I like. I feel empowered by Abby Valentine, even though she's hyper unrealistic. I can still question the fact that I wish she, you know, had better support in terms of her, you know, ensemble, but you know, I like that she beats up people with whips. I remember like as a kid, before I was awakened to myself, I would look at Ivy Valentine with like her whip and her like purple outfit, and I would be like, That's dope. But then when I would put her in like her like Victorian collar thing with the whip and like the high socks, and I was like, that's it right there. Like that, you know, like you will find the representation that you need to fit what makes you feel comfortable with your body. But we also have to be honest about it, because I am a petite woman with a large chest. What about fat women with large chests? What about fat women with asses and thighs and hips? They're not in these games, because these games don't care about cellulite and extra jiggle and putting those characters out there. And the problem with this conversation about Tifa's breasts and wanting to make her more realistic is that that is one body type, period. If you want to make realistic body types in video games, you have to have variety. If it's just a bunch of skinny people doing skinny people genre where they're all the same 5'5" height, that's not representation at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like, her having a more realistic body type for how her character was conceived is good. I'm glad that they're doing that. I'm glad that they're trying to make her more powerful and have that be her attention. But it doesn't mean that there isn't still a problem with the fact that like every girl in those games is skinny and the same size and the same height. I don't want to hear it. If you're not rooting for them to put stretch marks on the biddies, then I don't want to hear it. Period. Like, it's too much for me. It's too much for me to like have these guys act as though like they are doing this out of a respect. Because I vividly remember making a video. I really remember getting a bunch of comments one day back when I was a little bit more active, and people saying that this one YouTuber guy had sent them there, and they were all making comments about my boobs, and I found the video that they were referring to, and the guy, what he did was, I was talking about something, I think it was about people being mad about Idris Elba playing Heimdall or something like that. I remember I had short hair back then, and he said I looked like a jackal in the face. So there was that. You know, was he wrong? I can't really say, but that's what he said about my face. And he had cropped the video. Like, he had put my video in the thing, he cropped it so that he wasn't looking at my face and it was just showing my tits. And I will never forget that. And I have never forgotten it, clearly I'm telling that story. But like, that's the reality of it. I have never had people treat my boobs as if it wasn't something to like gawk at, something to fetishize me about, something to objectify me about. It's never made me feel beautiful. It's never made me feel strong. It's never made me feel anything. I love them because I've learned to love them. Yes, I love you. Like, I love them because they've been nothing but good to me. You know, I'm not gonna take out my anger on society on Gabrielle and Xena. You know, like, I'm not taking it out on them. I dressed like a tomboy for most of my teens and was very anti-feminine, almost, I would say, like, very internalized misogynistic, because I hated the fact that I had this body and it was of no use to me. Like, it was of no use to me. It never made me feel good about myself. I just knew that dudes would look at me and it would make me feel uncomfortable, because all I wanted to do was to not be sweaty all the time and just walk down the street and have a little bit of stunt in my step. But as soon as I did, they were like, oh, she's down to fuck. And it's like, no, I'm 18 years old and I'm still watching cartoons. Like, I was watching Teen Titans on Cartoon Network until I was 14 years old, guys. I was a child. I'm still very innocent in many ways. And it always felt like my innocence was being taken from me because I had large breasts. That's why these conversations really, like, I get drawn to them, but they also irk me. They irk me because it's a constant reminder that my body's value has never been about the completeness of it, but only about certain parts of it. And that's what's so destructive about the whole way that they design these characters in video games. It reinforces that the only thing that matters is up here and not anything else. So those are my thoughts on the Tifa situation. I would love to hear what you guys have to say about it. And again, like, I really love you check out the Well Actually channel. We have our first episode up, but I will not let it completely detract from this. So please check that out. And again, let me know how you like this video. Thumbs up, like, share, subscribe. You know the deal. And I'm just happy to be talking to you guys. Honestly, every time I come in front of the camera and actually like dedicate myself to like, I'm gonna do the thing, I feel better about it because I know that you guys will listen. And so we'll be back to talk about Pokemon because there's some whitewashing bullshit going on there. And I thought we learned this lesson with Avatar: The Last Airbender, but apparently not.